Consider the high likelihood of dredge, related sedimentation and pollution. The environmental impact assessment does not address the issue of sedimentation and its potential impacts on marine ecosystems, specifically in relation to dredging activities. It outlines mitigation strategies such as the use of silt fencing and turbidity curtains to reduce sedimentation entering the surrounding waters. However, these measures are often temporary solutions and are more about minimizing harm during the construction phase rather than preventing irreversible damage. I will, let me have that, because that'll be another question, and so you can take two. All right, the report falls short of offering concrete long-term solutions that ensure the protection of critical ecosystems beyond the construction phase. The mitigations are mostly short-term and don't fully guarantee the irreversible damage. Okay, so I think those were two similar.
Thank you for your question. So to frame it, the EIA will present the impacts, potential impacts and mitigation strategies at a high level. The next phase, the environmental management plan, is where we actually lay out the step-by-step instructions that the contractors, anybody working on that site will follow. So when you're talking about turbidity and impacts to marine areas, yes, installation of turbidity curtains, silt fencing are part of the strategy. When it comes to damage to marine resources, if there are viable coral that can be transplanted that aren't showing signs of skittledy, that won't spread disease into other places that are suitable for transplanting is an option. When it comes to how turbidity affects marine life, that area west of Leeward Harbor is naturally turbid on a daily basis. What we find is turbidity impacts marine species when it sits in an area for an extended period of time. Typically in these projects, you're dredging for, if it's a marine, if it's an entrance channel or a flushing channel, this is a shorter period of time. In areas where there are high currents, the turbidity, if it does escape the barrier, does not linger. And there is a measure of NTUs, that is how much turbidity is allowed outside of the barriers. So what we've found is that in these exercises we are creating entrance channels or flushing channels, the turbidity is temporary and it doesn't stagnate the marine life there to have long-term impact. The long-term impact will come from dredging of the seabed, and prior to that, if there are resources that can be transplanted, then we will do that. And this will be laid out in the management plan.
I'm Dr. Anselino Davis. I own the Science and Perspective brand, and really I'm here to reflect on the EIA process, the debt responsibilities, and kind of the general context of this, although you know you're going to receive a 20-something page list of comments from me regarding the EIA. Right now, the DAP website is down, but I know inside the legislation it says that the director of the DEPP is supposed to make a website where the EIAs and EMPs are supposed to be posted so that people can see them. So I would like perhaps the director to comment on that for us. As far as the EIA goes, I think for me, I have some issues with the plan surveys, the amount of area that you use inside your, I think you use Reveille or Releve surveys, and they don't seem really appropriate for this type of habitat or for the scale that you're using, the amount of surveys that you did. It doesn't seem like it will fully represent the area that you're talking about. So when you go to replace the trees 3 to 1, I think the people of Abaco may get shortchanged, or the people of the Bahamas, depending on where you're planting them. So if perhaps the Braun team could reflect on why that was chosen, why that technique was chosen, and if you have a reference to why that would be appropriate. On the side of the investors and the leaders who are the proponents of this, I really want to point out to you the kind of the size inside the room. When you mentioned Baker's Bay as an example for being ecologically friendly in this community, the coastline, the corals, the seabed in that area was devastated. and they have a similar project where they put a golf course on a coastline near sensitive areas. And that's a big issue, especially when you're between a coastline with our corals and stuff and a national park. All of those inputs, fertilizer, the water, the invasive grass and plant species that you're proposing to put in that High Back Bay and that Sandy Point area, not good for parrots, not good for the Bahamian environment. And all the palms that you have inside your renderings and stuff on all your beautiful images in the EIA, they're not good.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. I think that was 3 questions. So we'll let some other people take the question, and then I'll answer your question, and then Ron answer the question.
Just for Ron, this is the last one actually. For Ron, also for your Leeward Harbor modeling inside the EIA, it actually does not, or the modeling that was presented, I don't think y'all did it, but that modeling does not actually show the Leeward Harbor area that's outside around that coast, and that's actually a gazetted marine protected area that was funded through Global Environment Facility funds. So perhaps the director could indicate how that might impact the future of international funding for the Bahamas if we are directly going against what we have committed to in the past in terms of protections.
Thank you.
I'm the Director of Science and Policy for the Bahamas National Trust, the authority that is mandated responsibility for the Abaco National Park. I will hold all comments in response to the notion that we are in support of this project. Everyone is welcome to read our press statement that went out to the public today, and I'm sure that my executive director, who is on the call, when she has the opportunity to speak, will address our myriad of concerns. I have very specific questions about the improvements to Road 50. Well, I can't resist but making everyone aware that with this round of consultation, we have not been consulted directly. And considering that you are proposing improvements and let's use the right term, these are logging roads. So it's not an improvement, you are creating a new road and also adding new roads that go through the park. And no one has contacted us to discuss this. We have responsibility for this area. That road would not just impact nesting sites and affect the Abaco parrot, which is an iconic species that park was intended to protect, and we've been working for 30 years to manage that species. We have people here, and I know you mentioned the community, but we have people in this community that work every day to manage invasive species, and I'd like Marcus and Arthur and Devontae to stand up, please. Marcus said he didn't want to speak, but I mean, literally every day, dedicating their work towards saving this imperiled species that is iconic, unique to the Bahamas, and threatened. The road is not just going to impact the parrot, it's going to fragment the entire park. How are you going to address the issues of that fragmentation, all of the flow and connectivity that will be impacted by that? This is not just, there's immeasurable biodiversity inside that park. Other bird species like the Bahama warbler that we haven't seen in Grand Bahama since Dorian. This is a safe space for that. What are you going to do about impacts of the increased traffic, of bird strikes, the snakes, all of the other critters that we're not thinking about? You are literally separating the park, and that is not an insignificant impact. So I would like to know more about what does that improvement entail, and what really are you going to do to mitigate those impacts in the event that the BNT, we find a mutually agreeable approach.
Thank you. So
You do want to sit down and speak with the Bahamas addressed. We've had conversations in the past loosely around this and what this might look like. So we understand, yes, there are impacts when it comes to putting roads into areas that previously haven't had a road. There are logging roads. Some of these roads have previously been cleared to a certain width. Some of it is overgrown. The main lighthouse.
This project is very important to me. That's why we drove over 100 miles to be here tonight. And what's going on in this room remind me of my classmate. His name is Raul on Bristol. He was in charge of Samaritan First. During the hurricane, he said the problem is with Abaconians. That everybody else talk about Abaconians, but they wouldn't speak. There's so many people in here that this is going to impact positively when they let the outsiders come in and give their input. I'm here to say that this is the only thing that the government.
We can see the shipment arrives at Sandy Point, and we can see it depart. And the quality of life for the people of this community has not been improved in over 20 years by that project. I was here when they massaged us. I was here when Winding Bay massaged us. After they got what they wanted, they gave us the boot. on the 20th anniversary of the Disney Cruise Line, the same manager of the operation was still the manager of the operation, a foreign national. We couldn't find one Bahamian to train to take that operation over in 20 years. Don't massage us. The government is good at negotiating for maid service, bartenders' jobs. We want economic empowerment. You said we could do projects on the periphery. You didn't say we can come inside. Your comment, which I recorded, was, yeah, you could do some stuff on the outside and we'll talk. We want to be able to be on the inside. And have a better quality of life. Now, environmentally, you got tons of material that you will be excavating from that point south of the airport. Where do you plan to dispose of it once you excavate it out of there? And you've done the topography of that area. The Prime Minister is globe-trotting at every COB initiative to talk about sea level rise, global warming. Are you going to need to raise that property south of the Sandy Point Airport when you build this subdivision? And where will the runoff go once you do that?
Mr. Mills, where did Mr. Mills specifically, if I miss a question, please bring it back up. So, with regard, let's talk about opportunity for just a second. And I went through it very quickly so we can get to the question and answer section to allow everyone to ask their questions or speak. So the opportunity for the residents of South Abaco, as we see it, are many. I'm not trying to massage you, using your words. I'm trying to be as factual and truthful as I can be, and transparent as I can be at this moment. We've been working on this project 18 years. We made a promise years ago that we would do everything we can to utilize local Bahamian, let's call it talent and people and skills, etc. That includes everything from planning, design, construction work, not just construction workers, but we're talking about people that have already approached me about getting a contract to do part of the work as recently as this morning. And we intend to look at every one of those and provide as much opportunity on that side as we can. As it relates to operational, we need a lot of people. There's a lot of people with a lot of talent inside.
I just want to remind everyone, my business is called Science and Perspective, and the perspective is the Bahamian perspective. So I've talked about the plants and the trees and the birds and the bees and stuff like that, but I think it's really telling when you say that you have someone driving you around for a long time and you don't know their name. Or when you come to a community and you don't really think about who you're impacting and how. And some of the numbers that I read inside the EIA include 300 megawatts of power. We know the stability of the energy in Abaco. And those numbers, when they're totaled up at the bottom, it's a lot for all of your infrastructure and stuff like that. And that might be over a year's time, but just thinking about where is our power coming from, and after something like Hurricane Dorian, how long this area was out, and I would like to know what your, I saw that you said that you would be putting some back into the grid, but I would like to know how that is developed in the front end, so that the people of South Abaco could have that, whether or not your development is successful, to know where you're building the infrastructure up on the front end, and not just that sustainable energy, but also some of the water and the drainage issues. If you dredge out that Leeward Harbor area, and you pile up that fill and you elevate that area, that road there floods, doesn't it? Doesn't that road flood? Going down into the south. When that road floods and you exacerbate that flooding, how much contributions are you going to have to that? I think about people, and I think about their lives, and then their livelihoods, and it'll be a challenge for that. And then you have 170,000 people you say you want to bring into the community per year when it's developed, and that's 10% of our national air arrivals. So flooding 170,000 people into this area per year when it's done. These are the numbers that I've read inside your EIA, right? And then the 700 peak employees, that's the peak employees 5 years into the development, that drops down to less than 50 for construction. And then you have the ramp up of up to 1,000 people during operations. But construction labor and your resort operation labor, those are different types of people who you'll be hiring. And so I do reiterate the idea of bringing in education, and the big hotels in New Providence, like Atlantis, they actually had a 10-year lead where they were actually developing and training people in that area before they actually opened and launched really or got into operational phase. So I really would like some more discussion on what that actually means for the people of this community.
Thank you. That discussion is not going to happen tonight. Each developer is also, I think you mentioned stormwater drainage. Each developer is responsible for ensuring that their stormwater does not leave their property, and so we will ensure that that happens. Ms. Cartwright?
Good evening again. I would just like to add a little bit more context to my original statements. The Bahamas National Trust manages protected areas around the country for the Bahamian people. Abaco National Park was established decades ago with intense stakeholder support from the Abaco community. We have, yes, and the Bahamas National Trust is absolutely interested in supporting communities, supporting economic development that is sustainable, that with recommendations for what could go into this project, we would have steered you in very different directions. This is not unique. This is not innovative. This is not creative. We have seen this over and over. A marina, a golf course. You are next to one of the most incredible natural areas in the Bahamas, and this is a copy of something that exists somewhere else. And it's astronomical in scale. So it's incredibly expensive to execute. Will it be executed? Or will you end up with land and ecosystems that is scarred and cannot be returned, and the benefits that you were getting, you can no longer reap? So this is the concern. There are opportunities for development, and it can happen with natural areas, and we are committed to that as the BNT. The question is, are the developers? In 2007, that road was pushed through without any consultation or notice. Think about whether or not all of this reflects integrity and all the promises will be fulfilled.
Thank you very much. So I think environment is important because the developers are required to produce these documents. Somebody reads it. I read it. Nobody, who's read it? Do you know what they're actually doing? You know, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I'm just saying we need an opportunity to share our concerns in an environment that's not hostile. You know, this isn't that environment, and it's tragic. It's not right. And So
we're not doing the service. We're not doing the community service. We're not doing. I'm a Bahamian. You know, not doing me any service. Not doing the environment any service. It's a failure. But I do have one concern that I want.
let me respond to that. I think that that is a very important point that you're making. Now, it is important for us to recognize that everyone has different views on a particular development. This is why we have come to this open space. This is why I'm standing here to ensure that everybody's voice is heard. This is why we are here to make sure that everybody is respectful in the room. This is why you have a 21-day period after this public consultation meeting is done to send in whatever questions or comments you have outside of the room, outside of anyone potentially responding to you. However, everyone has the right and the opportunity to give their views, their concerns, and to say what is on their chest relative to this particular project or any project that we have a public consultation. We do not allow for disrespect in the public consultation meeting because everybody's voice needs to be heard. So this is a very safe space for you. Nobody here will bother you, Dr. Claridge, and I'm sure that you will get home safely this evening. So please give us your question. Give us your question. And if there is another question, a more detailed question that you would like for the DEP and the developers to respond to, you have 21 business days from now to be able to send in your question. You could give us a call and we will document your question and ensure that it is responded to as well.
Yeah, I have a lot of concerns, so I will be writing. But I think right now the most important thing for us to hear from the developers and Ron is, will you be doing a modeling, like a hydrology modeling with real data to tell us what will happen when, so Leno didn't get it quite right. What happens in Sandy Point is when the wind's in the north, you know, and God forbid when it's during a hurricane, but when the wind's in the north, the wind blows the water into the area between Sandy Point and the mangroves, and it floods. And just last week, we had, you know, houses with water this deep, salt water, in their yards, you know, and that's going into the septic tanks. It's a big problem, a real problem. And when you build your 10, 12, 15 feet, whatever you're going to do, that wetlands is a drainage area for Sandy. The drainage has already been compromised when the road was built.
But we need to find ways where the environmentalists as well as the developers can work together on solutions to all the problems that are coming. That's where are we in the process?
So we're very early in this process. I think I said a few minutes ago that the DEP is the first step once we have gotten cabinet approval. So cabinet, everybody should pay attention. Cabinet would have given its conditional approval to indicate that this is a development that we want in the Bahamas, that we want on this particular island, and then now you need to go on and see how we can make this happen. Okay, so this is where we are. If there are the environmental concerns, the economic concerns, the social concerns, I'm really fighting with people in the room. If the environmental concerns, the social concerns, the economic concerns are so great that the development is not able to proceed beyond where it is, then we are at a non-starting place. But if we, through this process, through this EIA process, are able to find, as you indicated, the solutions to move the process forward, tweak the project to a way that is suitable for most people, then we will be able to move forward from the step, and then other permitting agencies can get involved.
But what you need to take what we say and take in their words, because foreign entities don't know this land the way we do. You can pull all the data that you want. My dad's been bone fishing all his life. He knows these waters. We've got friends who's marine biologists, who's done research. We have people like our wonderful Nick here, who has created an environment and the Neem farm to where he invites children on his farm to learn and everything like that. We have the Bahamas National Trust. We need our environment. It's not just about money, making money. Yes, we want a wonderful life. But we have to protect what is ours. The Abaco parrot, for one, and two, the bone fishing grounds. And no one's saying anything about it. So when you come and ask us questions, please take our word for face value. All these people that spoke tonight, when you're making your planning, get their phone numbers and their emails. Have them involved in these conversations. Because it is very emotional to me, who I've been away to college. I've been in the United States for over 28 years, and I come back to this. I was brought up hunting and shooting a gun and going out and fishing and everything like that. And to me, what I see as a younger person is that my traditions are getting taken away from me, because I'm not going to be able to go and enjoy the beaches. I'm not going to be able to go and enjoy going hunting anymore, because then, with a park like this, there's going to be a ton of stipulations. And it's going to affect a lot of the traditions. So please, if you need it,
Thank you.
Please take these people for what they want. If you need to know something, come to us who have been on this island and know it. There's only so much you're going to get from a computer.
What percentage of the population are you going to import for labor? Where are they going to be housed? How are they going to be housed? I think you have a subdivision. If you're going to be building for housing for those persons, and then the whole magnitude of all the people that you're bringing into the development, are they going to be staying within a closed community? How the sewage is managed? You talked about reverse osmosis, but I mean, it doesn't come from out of the air. The water still has to come from out of the ground, if I'm not mistaken.
The sea.
Or, you talk about desalination,